And hello, everyone, and welcome to Database and Methods, a cyber seminar series hosted by VIReC, the VA Information Resource Center. Thank you to CIDR for providing technical and promotional support. Database and Methods is one of VIReC's core cyber seminar series, and it focuses on helping VA researchers access and use VA databases. In the next slide, you'll see the series schedule. Sessions are typically held on the first Monday of every month at 1 p.m. Eastern. More information about the series and other VIReC cyber seminars is available on VIReC's website, and you can view past sessions on HSR&D's VIReC Cyber Seminar Archive. And a quick reminder for those of you just signing on, the slides are available to download. This is a screenshot of the sample email you should have received today before the session. In it, you will find the link to download the slides. Today's presentation is titled, Meet VIReC, a Researcher's Guide to VA Data. It will be presented by Dr. Maria Souden. Maria Souden is Acting Director of VIReC, where she leads Center Operations and Strategic Development to support effective use of VA data for research and quality improvement, along with serving as an advocate for researchers' needs during the VA's transition to Cerner. She's currently an affiliated researcher with the University of Illinois School of Information Sciences. Thank you so much for joining us today. Maria, you still might be on mute.
Maria, you're still muted. You can unmute yourself with the microphone button on the bottom. Oh, sorry. Maria, I'll unmute you right now, okay? Okay. Maria? Maria, you're unmuted. You can talk? To our audience, we are very sorry. We're having some technical difficulties. If you could just bear with us for one moment. Hi, Amanda, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So it's Dr. Souden having some problems with her.
Better? Yes, now we can hear you.
We can hear you now. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Gotten all of the technical issues out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
I just wanted to give everyone who was really late a chance to join. All right. All right. There we go.
Okay.
Oops. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
I don't know. Something happened. I got kicked out of Teams in a bad way. So.
Okay.
All right. All right. Hi, everybody. This is Maria Souden. I'm the acting director of VIReC, as Amanda said, and thank you, Amanda, for that introduction. Today's session is called Meet VIReC. And my goal today really is to provide an overview of the VA Information Resource Center, some of our products and services and web environments, and try just to give you a little bit of a handle on where you can find things. I do want to say that this session focuses specifically on VIReC resources for understanding and using VA data. What it won't cover is kind of an overview of what data is available in the VA, and it won't cover how to access that data. But there are 2 sessions right at the beginning of the fiscal year so that you can find them on the web. We'll have links to them in the presentation that cover those 2 topics. So I almost always get some comments about, well, we went to see about the data, but this is just not that session. But hopefully this is a helpful guided tour that will give you an idea of what VIReC does, what are some of our main product types are that can be helpful to you in supporting your work with data, what our websites or other kinds of resources for information are, and where you can go for additional questions or customer service. So I'm going to start with a couple of polls just so that I know who I'm talking to. The first one is, please describe your typical role in research or quality improvement projects. So when you're using data, are you an investigator, PI, or COI? Are you a statistician, data manager, analyst, or programmer? Are you a project coordinator, or are you something else? And in that case, you can select other and describe it in the chat function.
Great. So that poll is now open. Our answers are coming in once they seem to have slowed down a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and let that run for just a couple more seconds before I close it out. All right. I'm going to close the poll. And the results are up. All right.
All right. So out of the 192 people on the line, 50 of you said that you were investigators, 38 statisticians or data managers, people who are hands-on in the data, 30 project coordinators, and 16 something else.
So those something else are senior leader, analyst, research assistant, and case managers.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we do find that our resources are used by in different roles for different purposes. So I'm hoping that everybody should get something out of this. So the second question, we're just trying to understand how much experience you have working with VA data. So if you're brand new, you can select none, a year or less, more than 1 year, less than 3 years, 3 to 7 years, 7 to 10 years, or 10 years or more.
If that poll is open, please, everyone, remember when you select your answer, always hit submit at the end, or else it's not going to get recorded. So that has slowed down. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results.
Great. So 41% of you said you're brand new to this, which is definitely something we would expect. This session is designed for somebody who's new, so that's great. Again, you might want to go back and watch those other 2 sessions that I talked about to start filling in some more details about the state of data in the VA. Then 11% 1 year or less, 13% 1 to 3 years, 11% 3 to 7 years, and then 19% altogether saying 7 or more. So thank you. I always get a good representation from those of you who've been around, but maybe want to hear what else is going on. And then the last poll is how familiar are you with VIReC and our products and services? So we're going to ask you to say if you're a frequent user, if you just are familiar with us and you use our products and services sometimes, if you're aware of but never used any of our products or services, or if you're not at all familiar.
Great. So now it's the poll is open. Our answers are coming in quite rapidly. We'll just let that run for a few more seconds. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Share the results.
All right. So again, this is pretty kind of what we hoped for this session. That with the bulk of you, about 77% either not familiar with us at all or aware of but haven't used our products and services yet. So hopefully today will be helpful in understanding how they can support your work. So I'm going to start by just talking a little bit about VIReC, about who we are and what we do. So our mission is really to help VA use data effectively in all kinds of analytical projects, whether they're research or quality improvement, and then also to serve as a link between research data users and the rest of the organization. So we help by developing data knowledge and methods. So we don't, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later, we're not really the people who keep the data or provision the data to you for the most part, but we do study the data that's made available through the business intelligence service line, and then we develop products that really help to translate it into the research use. We disseminate those products via our websites and other digital dissemination venues and our help desk. And then we also work, and this is that kind of behind the scenes work where we liaise between data users and the broader VA community. So we're working to help to make data more accessible and more available for the community. And this is kind of how this works, how these 3 areas work together. So we think about our product sort of strategy in a cycle where we are monitoring the needs of the community, responding to them and to the shifts in the environment of what people are studying. We develop products according to what we're seeing and hearing from you all. We disseminate that knowledge. We work with other data stewards, other people in the data environment who help to bring you data, to try to make data more understandable, to reduce barriers to access, and to just keep increasing the knowledge about data. And then that kind of also, those liaison activities give us a chance to continue to monitor what the community and the organization need in terms of support for data. So this is what kind of looks like these are our essential functions, kind of our core functions and expertise. And you can see they really go along the continuum of research data needs. So everything from initially helping to make sure data is there for you, to kind of translating that data to help you situate it in your use case, providing that education and disseminating knowledge about data. We have a help desk where we answer individual questions. We run a knowledge sharing environment to get community answers to questions. We perform liaison work across the organization. And then we have, the last three things I've highlighted in different color because the last two in particular represent some special projects that we take on that really are kind of, in some ways they're part of our liaison role, some ways they're part of the products we provide, but as we're interacting, we are the steward for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid data, and we also facilitate data management and collection via the VIReC app. So, and I'm going to just get these few things out of the way right away before we dig into data resources and how to use them. So, we are the steward for the VA CMS, or the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid data, and all the other data that CMS makes available to us for veterans. And as part of that, we acquire the data, we maintain the repository, match it to the veteran cohort. You apply to use the data through us, and then we provision the data to you and oversee its use. This is the only data that we actually do that with. So if you're talking about VIReC data, you're probably talking about CMS data. If you're not, you might just have us mixed up with the people who actually offer the data, which is most of the data in the VA is owned by national data systems. They're the data steward. We also maintain the VA REDCap software, which is electronic data capture software for collecting data and managing data within the firewall. You can find more about that on our website. And then we also have been involved heavily, as Amanda mentioned when she introduced me, in a special project over the last few years, helping to prepare research for the transition to the Cerner electronic health record, or the Cerner EHR. So we lead this strategic initiative for research in EHR synergy, and do a lot of work here in advocacy, creating knowledge about data. And you can get to this kind of information from our website. So this is the front page of our intranet site. If you focus down in that left column, we have a special place for EHRM resources, since it's such a hot topic right now. So, and I want to point out we have a cyber seminar series that we've just started in this area. And then we also have our EHRM and implications for data users webpage. So this provides an overview of the EHR modernization. It also provides a lot of links. I hope you can see that, but it provides frequently asked questions and a lot of links to some general resources that are really good pointers to understanding the data further. It's where all our products, our data knowledge products related to the new data will hang and live as we keep developing them. So how do you get to VIReC resources? So, well, before we talk about that, I have one more poll. Last one, promise. So I'm just wondering which of the following VIReC products and services you use. You know what? Actually, Whitney, is it okay if we just skip this poll question? Just thinking about all our new users and thinking it's likely not to be all that enlightening. All right. So
okay,
thank you. So VIReC has 3 sites where you'll find information about data. So the main one is our intranet site. That's behind the VA firewall. That's really where all of our products are that talk about the data. That's information that's you only can use data behind the firewall, VA data. So that's where the information about it lives. It's also a way to protect sensitive data or internal links. We also, on the intranet, collaborate with National Data Systems and VINCI and VIReC on the VHA Data Portal site. So this is a kind of your one-stop shop for getting to information about what data are available in VA and how to access them, how to apply to access them. And then this is our internet site at the bottom of the screen. So this is our public-facing site. It's pretty thin on content. It's sort of more like the VIReC brochure or our publicly available content, but the one thing you will find here is our cyber seminar education information. So we do this cyber seminar series as well as we have 2 other regular series, one that focuses on implementation and evaluation research and partnered research, as well as this one, which is the database and methods, kind of our bread and butter series. We do a weekly VA REDCap education hour, which is kind of a drop-in office hours with our REDCap team. And then we have our new series, Research and EHR Synergy, which you can also find out about from our internet page. We also have a help desk where we provide individualized support. So if you are not finding the answer you need looking through on the portal or the VIReC website, you can always email our help desk, virec@va.gov. Your request is triaged to subject matter experts within VIReC, and then we also use our network, our organizational knowledge, and our other relationships to connect people to the expertise they need if it's not something we can provide. Another alternative for specific questions is the HSR Data Listserv. So this is our community knowledge sharing venue. It is an opt-in environment. If you want to join the listserv, you can get there from this badge. I probably can't see this badge on our website. You can also get there from the link here, which is our webpage about the HSR Data Listserv. So we have about 1,600 people who are members of the community right now, really representing kind of all aspects of the data ecosystem. So everything from stewards and offices who create the data to PIs to data managers, analysts on both the operations and the research side. So essentially it works like a question answering forum where people will post a question to the list and then other people will answer based on their experience. And it's just a way that we can help to escalate knowledge that's in the community because we can't really document everything. So this is a way of kind of putting together some applied knowledge, especially if you have a tricky question, you're trying to do something that's not making sense. And over on the right of the screen, you can see that's the archive. It just gives you an idea of the kinds of things that people post about. Right. Another resource that we have for information is our Data Issues Brief. So this is a regular publication that provides kind of regular updates about VA data and information systems, news about new products we have out, as well as products the other resource centers or other areas of the data ecosystem are producing. So it really focuses on data and informatics, the electronic health record. This is you're looking at the index or the table of contents of our most recent issue. The product is online. If you go to that link, you can get to the current issue as well as the archived issues. You can search those. And you can email our help desk, virec@va.gov, if you want to get on the list to subscribe to the monthly DIB. Well, actually, sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's quarterly. So sort of right now we've been in a quarterly cycle, just given some of our other levels of work. All right, so now I think of this last half of the presentation is kind of really the meat of it. And what I'm going to try to do, and I think it could be a little challenging because I know some of you are new to the data environment already. I mean, right at this point, you're still new. So without that orientation, if you didn't go to the previous session, the November session, October session, I encourage you to do that. But I'm going to try to talk about kind of resources within the context of how you might want to use them. So my shorthand for this section is, where do I go for X? So looking at kind of some general use cases of things you might want to learn about as you're using data in the VA, and how you can find them through our resources. So my first use case is, where do I learn what data is available? Pretty easy now. And if I was teaching this class and you were sitting in front of me, I might say, so where did I say you can learn about all the data available? And of course, you would answer that first overview presentation, Maria. So that's definitely one source. Another great source to see data that's available is the VHA data portal. So this intranet site, as you see here, this is the actual data sources page. I got to it by clicking on data sources up here in the menu bar. And really, let's see. Oh, yep. So here's like a partial list of what drops down when you click on sources. I think there's about 31 sources altogether that are listed on the portal, meaning they're centrally available in the VA. So some of them are, a lot of what we use is the corporate data warehouse. That's kind of all the main EHR data and the operations data that runs the health system. But there are a number of different files and specialized sources that you see here that are from program offices taking that sort of base care data and then adding information to it. So I'm going to take a look at the CDW page as an example. So this is what a source page typically looks like on the portal. This is the CDW page, and you'll see, again, the content. It sort of gives you a brief overview of the content and the structure and how to request the data. So that leads me to my second big use case, which is how do I request data from the VA? So it's not just right there. You do have to go through a process of applying to use it. This protects the security and the confidentiality of veteran data. So it helps us make sure that people only have appropriate access to data, because the health data is sensitive, personally identifiable information is sensitive, and veteran data is highly protected by federal regulations. So this page on the portal, that you'll find in the data access in the menu bar up there, provides an overview to how you request access to data. And there's really two things that are going to drive requesting access in the VA. One is what you're using the data for. So one is just which data source it is. So different sources might have different processes. And the second one really is how are you using the data. And that's this section down in here. There's a different process depending on whether you're requesting data to use for research or for an operations project. There's some information here that can help you figure out which of those you are if you don't know. If you do know, you can go to the data access menu. You can look at the research access section, and you can get some more information about the different processes for requesting research access to data. Again, if you really want to know in depth about how to submit a request to use data, I highly recommend Linda Koch's from VIReC, her session, and which is from November of this past year and is available on our website. But you'll see here that this portal page talks about research access in general, and then these maybe 6 bullets down here are kind of like the 6 processes that map to most of the data that's available. A lot of data is available through our national system, which is the Data Access Request Tracker, otherwise known as DART. So like you see, if you click here, you get to our DART research request process page, and this has everything you need basically to submit a research request. So we have had a team has worked very hard to try to compile a some fairly detailed process information about submitting a request, what forms you need to have, what are your other resources for using DART. All right, so now you know how to find out what sources of data there are. You know how to request data once you have a source. And the next thing you might want to know is what's in this data? How can I find out what's in a particular data source? And how can I find out like what it's structured like so I know how to work with it? So I'm going to use the corporate data warehouse as an example. So this is VIReC's corporate data warehouse homepage. Again, you can see that it has some overview information about the CDW. There's a frequently asked questions section that's pretty helpful because it does cover some, if you have a specific question, it covers some of the most frequent things that people ask us. And then it also has this resources for researchers section that provides links to various kinds of documentation or descriptions of the data that's in the CDW. So we produce a lot of those and make them available through this link up here on the right side of our page, this documentation link on the CDW menu there. And that gets you to our CDW documentation page over here on the left. So this page basically is where we link all of the things that we develop for the corporate data warehouse. And if you're new to the environment, the CDW is definitely where we, where most of the time where people are pulling data from for projects. So if you are new and you're just getting started, well, I'm going to focus in actually on the documentation itself. So in this section, and then I'm going to talk about fact books. So fact books are products that we produce that actually document the CDW domains. So CDW has about 90 different domains. You probably do not need us to document them all, but we document the most critical ones. And you'll see here, and this is our fact book page on the right. You'll see links to all of the fact books that we produce. And so you can see which domains, you can see what version of the domain they refer to, and you can see the release date on for the product. So to just show you what a fact book is, I'm going to take a look at the outpatient fact book. So our fact books really provide a detailed description of the data structurally and to give you some idea about the content, and particularly the clinical context. So all the data is traced from the VISTA. So our VISTA system is the source of most of the data. It is the back end to CPRS. So what you'll see is you'll be able to understand the data fields or columns, as we sometimes refer to them in the SQL databases, in terms of where they originate from in care. You'll get to see what tables are included in each domain and what the descriptions are of those columns. It gives you some sample SQL code that you can use for some basic research questions, as well as the key connections to help connect the tables. So if that all seems a little bit like Greek to you, which it might if you've not used the corporate data warehouse before, we have some nice resources around the technical aspects of working with data. So going back to that data documentation section on the CDW documentation page, If you're new to using CDW, we suggest you start here with the Getting Started with CDW section. So essentially what this is an archive of a series of seminars, about seven different cyber seminars that really kind of take you through introducing you to the corporate data warehouse, how it's structured, what does it mean that it's a SQL database. There's even a session that does a much better job than I do about how to find all the documentation you need to work with it, but talks about joining. It talks about some really kind of basic and then winding up with some kind of intermediate SQL skills for managing your data. These, you can play back the sessions, so you see the slides and hear the audio, or you can just listen to the audio, or you can just download the slides. But highly recommended if you're just getting started. So the next use case I'm going to talk about are what we think about as conceptual aspects of working with data. So this is like sort of beyond what the data, how the data are actually structured, or that kind of data dictionary version of what the data contain, but really moving into some more of the real considerations that you need to keep in mind if you're trying to extract certain measurements from the data. Because, you know, data are probably only as good as how you use them. So you really, and because these data are collected for a different purpose than you're using them for your research, for your analysis, or your quality improvement question, it can be easy to misinterpret or not know all that goes into them. So we try to really support some of how you think about various concepts in the data. So I'm going to show you where to find some of this documentation. So on our intranet page, again, this is back to our home page, we have this section right here called Learn About VA Data. This is this is kind of like a pro tip for using our website. If you go back again, once the seminar is over, and you look at the front page and you go, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff. So these three shortcuts will get you to really just about any content that you need to get to. These shortcuts and these badges over on the left here. But if you look at the so let's see, I think I do have a blow up of this Learn About VA Data section, and it gives you a choice to select or do a drop-down menu to look at data sources, topics, or tools. If you go to our data topics page, so this is the Working with VA Data page, just what it looks like on its own if you're looking at everything that's listed here. So, and you can select whether you want to see all the data sources, all the topics, or the tools for working with data. So these topics, as you can see, they kind of run the gamut, everything from like when I'm looking at cost of care, what do I need to do with data then, or where do I look for that in the data? And I'm pretty sure that that page just tells you to go see VIReC and gives you links to their resource center, because they are really the ones who document cost data. But some of these other things are areas where we've done data investigations, where other people have looked at, like, for instance, like something like race and ethnicity. Maria Moore, who's a VA researcher in Pennsylvania, she does a great session for us every year on race and ethnicity data. And, you know, but as it turns out, because we have a system where a lot of different people are putting in data, and data can be recorded by various people in various ways, there are some idiosyncrasies in using race and ethnicity data in the VA. So if you go to this page, it summarizes some of that. It tells you what sources to go for that data, and it gives you maybe some sense of which sources you would use depending on what you're trying to find out about race and ethnicity. I'm going to take a look at this, the vital status ascertainment page. So this is one we've produced quite a bit of information about, which is a lot of times, and it's a commonly needed information to usually in conjunction with other data that you're pulling. So oftentimes people will need to find out if the veterans are still living in their cohort. And there are a number of, or if you're looking at outcomes, death might be one of the outcomes that you're looking at, unfortunately. So this page describes kind of the various sources to understand date of death data. Actually also talks a little bit about cause of death data and how to get to that, as well as some resources for understanding the utility of these various pages. We have another page you can see in the top right here that talks about accuracy of death dates. So again, focuses on a specific aspect of the utility of the data. The sixth use case I'm going to talk about is how is the data applied? So these use cases, I just want to mention too, these use cases are not steps. They're not necessarily in order. Understanding how data are applied to different research questions can be information you get from a mentor or someone else in your center who you're collaborating with. But it can also be helpful to really look at early on in your process to just see how data has been applied to various topics. So one of the easiest ways to see kind of how data is used or applied to a research question or topic is through this cyber seminar series that you're tuning into now. So as we go through the year, we present on various data sources and topics, very common topics in the data. So if you want to get information or links to our cyber seminars, you're going to go to our internet page. So that's the public-facing internet site. This is the site I mentioned before where you probably won't go here for most things, but you definitely will if you're going to look for cyber seminar information. So you want to select the education section, and then you have to click on the globe connected to the computer image, and it takes you to our cyber seminars homepage. So here you see descriptions about our cyber seminar series, database and methods that you're in now. The new one that focuses, we have a new monthly session that we do in conjunction with the Proven Hub through HSR&D that focuses on the EHR modernization and that transition. We have another session that we do that's aimed at query researchers at implementation research or other kinds of partnered work, partnered evaluation, called Using Data and Information Systems in Partnered Research. We have a series we often offer intermittently called Good Data Practices. So we've had some great little mini-series sessions of good data practices that focus on ways to organize data, manage data, how to think about data throughout the life cycle of your project. Our corporate data warehouse cyber seminar series, and some series that we've done in the past, including clinical informatics, innovations in healthcare informatics. So these feature a lot of VA presenters and are, again, good resources for seeing data actually applied to research questions. So if you select the database and methods page, you will see a description kind of this, and again, this is kind of our bread and butter series, so this kind of gives you a good lay of the land. All of the links on this page will either take you to the registration page for upcoming sessions or to the archive page where CIDR, so Whitney works for CIDR, and CIDR sponsors these sessions and provides all the support for them. So Whitney and her colleagues maintain an archive of previous sessions, which you can find on that page. I think this is maybe my last use case. So I'm going to talk about methods for working with VA data. So you're in the data, you got it in your hands, you're trying to use it to answer your research question. So you might find that you need more information about some of the nuances of specific methods for using the data. So sometimes things aren't always as straightforward in a large relational data warehouse. So there will be certain methods depending on what you're doing. So what we've done here is kind of developed a serial product called the Researcher's Notebook. And this is available. This is that home page. You remember the column with the VIReC resources in it. So there's a link to the Researcher's Notebook page. If you go there, you see there's a series of products. These are shorter products, and they really focus in on a very specific activity or particular thing you're trying to do with the data. So these are either done by VIReC staff who are using data, or they're done in conjunction with researchers in the field, thus the Researcher's Notebook title. So they really represent kind of just a snapshot of the way that a person did a thing at a particular point in time for their project. So they're not necessarily always meant to be instructions. They might be spot on for you. They might need to be altered a little bit for your purposes, but they do give you an idea of how the data work. So I'm going to look at a researcher's notebook. So this is one about identifying bed sections for inpatient cohorts, and you can see there's kind of some overview information. We try to give you the background you need to take this on, and then take you through a stepwise process of how you might go about this. And again, I'd like to really emphasize that these are very much developed from a specific point of view. So they're made to be adapted and generalized, but they kind of give you an idea of how you might write a SQL query to address this particular issue or to get this from the data. So this is the researcher's notebooks. And you can subscribe to those as well by contacting our help desk. Let's see, I think that I left a few additional resources I'm going to point out to you besides the ones that we've talked about. So this is a quick links page. So this provides you with links to some of the resources we looked at today, as well as some of the other resources that are available in the data ecosystem, really, that we work in. So Vinci is another resource center that supports environments for using and working with data. Oftentimes your CDW data is provisioned to you within a Vinci environment by their data provisioners. VIReC, which is another resource center that deals with documenting and producing economic data sets. And then other sites that we talked about here, like our cyber seminars link, the portal, our intranet page, and the CDW page, because there's a lot of things that are published by Bissell as well about the data. So the next slide. So here are some resources for understanding the EHRM. So this is a question I get asked a lot these days. So there are a number of links here again, and you'll probably notice this theme over and over again. We're in an organization that generates information from a lot of different places and a lot of different perspectives. And so really what our kind of part of our overall strategy is trying to bring these resources together to help you create a complete picture of the data and how to work with it. And there's my information. You can feel free to email me with follow-up questions. If you really want a quick answer, you might want to email our help desk, virec@va.gov. They will make sure I get it, or oftentimes they can answer it much better than I can. And I think that's it. So we have about 10 minutes for questions.
Okay, and so we have some questions, and please feel free to write more questions in the Q&A. So the first question, are there data definitions available for CDW raw data tables?
So the short answer is no, really. There is some documentation if you look in the on that CDW page, you'll find a link to the BISL site. You can kind of go through their metadata, but really part of the nature of the raw domains is that they're sort of less used and not documented as much as other domains, as the production domains.
Okay. And this is, for some reason, when I try any of the links to the VHA data portal, I'm receiving an error message of the site can't be reached. Any idea why this might be?
So the two most common reasons are that you're not on the intranet, so you're not behind the firewall. But if you know you're on the VA network, that's probably not it. My guess would be that it's browser specific. So I know, we use a few different browsers in the VA now, and they do tend to behave differently. Sometimes what's in your cache can but I would suggest that you can email the help desk, VIReC@va.gov, because we do get a number of questions about things like this, and we're happy to help you troubleshoot.
I am a grad student, and I was wondering if CDW is accessible for me for my dissertation.
So the VA data of any kind is only available to people within a VA affiliation, which is not necessarily a stopper if you don't work here. It just means that you really need to partner or collaborate. So you would need to have a mentor or somebody that you're working with who could be the sort of named PI within the VA environment. And that person would work to get you privileges to access the data and to work with the data. But it's not readily available to anybody outside of the VA. It is intramural.
Okay. And for data access intended for proposal preparation, how complicated and onerous is the access process?
So definitely for more information, that would be your preparatory to research project process, and it really depends on what kind of question you're trying to answer, right? So depending on what your question is and which data you're looking at, there are a few steps. It's generally designed to be quicker and give you more direct access to the data than going to the process to actually get data for your research project, but you just can't carry it over and use it afterwards. But again, there's information about preparatory research on that data portal site, and Linda's session in early November also talks more about that process as well.
This has been great. Thank you. I was wondering if you can expand on how you work with the administrations to collaborate on the data.
So I assume when you say the administrations, are we talking about like VBA and the other veterans, VCA? So we do collaborate. We do some, VHA does some external collaborations with the other veterans administrations. So frequently our researchers and analysts need particularly like Veterans Benefits Administration data. So we work to try to provide information about that. And and that's, I mean, those kind of collaborations are things that are being worked at all across the organization. So we interface on some sort of big VA committees and look at issues of data sharing and advocate for getting data from other agencies, as well as groups like VIReC, VIReC, all of the centers that are focused on data have different kinds of relationships with external sources.
We're working on VA data through a DOE project, but do not have access to the VA intranet. Can you provide the CDW fabric outside of the firewall?
So I believe through your DOE contact, we can provide you with access to the documentation. But again, please feel free to follow up with the VIReC at va.gov to make sure you're connected in the right channel for that to happen.
Can you tell what are the sources, tables available for working with unstructured data like clinical notes?
So clinical notes are available through the TIU notes domain. And that particular area would be something that VIReC, the VA Informatics and Computing Infrastructure, is more expert in terms of getting access to. They do a lot of work with NLP and with processing clinical note data. So you can contact them at VIReC@va.gov to learn more about that.
Is there any particular track available for new NPOP VA data, database, and coding methods?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question. So NPOP. So I do, I mean, definitely in terms of a learning track, if you're using the data, I definitely recommend kind of plugging into these resources. So you might start with some of those CDW sessions, take a look at the database and method sessions because they do give some entrees, and then spend some time kind of drilling down into the resources that are available for the particular source that you're using. And then kind of you can supplement that with the VIReC help desk or the VIReC help desk, depending on what the nature of your question is. But there are a lot of resources for getting help and guidance about the kind of how to learn a particular data source or work through a problem around the data. And of course, there's always the listserv. So while we don't have a specific track, we do have resources that you can it's kind of a choose your own ending or create your own story journey here.
Do the databases include non-VA care veteran clinical information with the recent expansion?
So there is limited, I think there is a lot that's in progress right now for bringing in community care clinical data. So there is some administrative data around community care in the community, and we do have a web page in our topics section about care in the community data. So you can definitely look at that. We have a number of different products that help you understand where you can find information about that care. I think the depth of how clinical it actually is still pretty limited at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one last question. How does VA REDCap differ from Loyola or Northwestern REDCap? Can data be entered or accessed interchangeably between the systems?
No, they're definitely separate systems. So they are a different, it's a different system of record. The functionality is probably a little bit different too. So that, depending again on like sort of what your specific need is for using multiple REDCap systems, that is definitely something our help desk deals with quite a bit in terms of guiding people about how to use those together. I think we might even have a recording or two that discusses some of those aspects of working with an academic REDCap as well.
Great. Well, we are at the top of the hour. So Maria, thank you so much for taking time to present today's session. To the audience, if your questions were not addressed during the presentation, you can contact Maria directly. You can also email the VIReC help desk at virec@va.gov. And please tune in for next session in VIReC's Database and Methods Cyber Seminar Series on Monday, March 1st at 1 p.m. Eastern. It's the first in a two-part series, Joint Longitudinal Viewer, JLV, and Research, Part 1, Getting Started. We'll hope you join us there. Thank you once again for attending. We will be posting the evaluation shortly. Please take a minute to answer those questions. Let us know if there's any data topics you're interested in, and we'll do our best to include those in future sessions. Have a wonderful day.